All right, welcome back. Autism rates are on the rise. The CDC now estimates 1 in 31 children in the United States are on the spectrum.
Now, with those numbers on the rise, many parents and families are asking, is autism becoming more common? Are we getting better at recognizing and diagnosing it? Certainly a lot of talk and controversy on this subject. And joining us now to talk about the current science and what we know is Dr. Laura Saunders. She is a psychologist at Hartford Healthcare's Institute of Living. Thanks for being with us, Doc.
Thank you for having me. Yes, we are talking about autism. There's been a lot of controversy and talk about autism in the past few weeks, but I like to stick to the science and the facts and the information.
Yes.
Nothing inflammatory here.
Okay. So let's just start with, when we were growing up, you didn't hear a lot about autism. I know it probably existed, but why is it on the rise? Is it because that it's more prevalent, or we just now have more criteria to diagnose?
So that's the core issue here, right? Is it just far more prevalent now? Is the incidence on the rise than it was, say, 30 years ago? And in fact, what's happening is that the actual diagnosis has changed. So it's not that so many more people have symptoms. It's that the diagnostic criteria has changed since the 90s. So it used to be a much more narrow definition of autism. So it was only the most severe individuals, which were obviously, they were really diagnosed in childhood because they were nonverbal. They had a lot of the hand flapping and the very severe behaviors. So as the diagnostic criteria has expanded to really understand this as a spectrum disorder, now people get diagnosed in high school, in young adulthood, and in adulthood. So that's why so many more people have the diagnosis, is because the criteria has expanded.
Forgive me, Doc, and my memory might fail me, but I don't remember anyone in my elementary school or middle school with this type of behavior. I could be completely wrong, maybe, but it just seems that it's just so much more prevalent these days.
Yes, but the point, Scott, is that if we're talking about, I mean, you and I are not in our 20s anymore.
Yes, yes.
Right. So as for that younger generation, those more severely autistic individuals who were easily diagnosed were generally not in your public elementary school.
Okay.
Very
good.
But if you think about high school, right, if you think about high school, we all knew those individuals in high school that were odd, that couldn't relate to people socially, that were really fixated on one particular topic or had expertise in one particular area. We all knew those individuals, right? And then we later started to call them as having Asperger's syndrome. And now Asperger's syndrome is under the autism umbrella. But we all knew those people in high school. Now they're considered autistic, and we didn't have that word for them back then.
So let's talk about the cause. And I know there's a lot of controversy on this, but current science, is it hereditary? Is it environmental? A little bit of both?
So the current science is that there is a strong hereditary component. In my clinical work, when I work with individuals on the autism spectrum, it's pretty common that they have a first-degree relative that is also on the autism spectrum. So some of the research is showing like it's about 80% heritability, meaning like there's some other first-degree relative. It's kind of like height, right? When you have a tall child or you have a shorter child, generally there's a first-degree relative who has height or doesn't have height in the family. Environmental factors do play a small role, but it's really difficult to determine what that is. But I have to say, unconditionally, vaccines do not have a link to autism. That has been disproven over and over and over again.
Okay.
And I know we have to bring this up because we've been talking a lot about Tylenol. And I know, people who are pregnant are nervous, people who've had babies. There's obviously the federal government with RFK Jr. saying, raising the red flag on this. I guess there's some studies, but not to the level that doctors have been telling people not to take Tylenol.
Right. So I've seen the interview with the author of the Swiss study, which is the study that has over 2 million individuals in it. And obviously, always check with your doctor when you're pregnant to get the best medical advice. But what they're saying is that there is no causal, okay, look at the word I'm using, causal. There's no causal link between Tylenol and pregnancy and rates of autism.
You know, I think it's interesting, even the Institute on Autism, they came out and they were like, well, there's just really no one causal effect.
It's so complex. And
So
that's the thing,
complex.
if you know two people with autism, you know two people with autism, because there can be different. But let's just talk about the core. There are 3 things you want us to know about the core symptoms of ASD.
Right. There are 3 core areas, and we'll talk more about this in Kara's Cures. There's deficits in social communication and interaction, deficits in social emotional reciprocity, and repetitive behaviors or restricted interests, right? It's kind of like I said, we all knew those kids in high school that had, like, they were so into one particular area. They really knew. I worked with someone one time that absolutely loved Peter Cetera, and they knew everything about Peter Cetera, the singer. Right. So they have very restricted interests.
All right, we are going to get into it more on Kara's Cures, which is great. You can find that where, Kara?
You can find it streaming on WSB Plus and on any podcast platform.
Great show. Kara's curing the world, and you're helping her.
I know who to call anyway. Thank you.
Thanks, Doc.
I'm
Good to
always
see you.
appreciative. Have a great day.
You too. All right, coming up next.